firearms safety and firearms etiquette and the difference between the two. There's a serious, serious line between firearms safety and firearms etiquette. And it is important that you understand the difference between the two. And I'll explain why. All right. George, can you verify that there's nothing in this gun? It's completely empty?
It is.
Absolutely nothing in the gun, right? All right, same thing with you. You know there's nothing in there?
Nothing.
All right. So there's no way this gun can go bang. I'm going to sit it right here on the table. Absolutely no way that gun can go bang. Somebody tell me otherwise. In the condition that it's in currently, that gun cannot go bang. Am I correct? Right?
That is correct.
I see you kind of like glancing your head over there. This is not a, I'm not about to pull a bunny out of a hat, okay? There's no trick question here.
Okay.
Okay, so it is completely unloaded, all right? Now, for those of you that looked and verified, I'm only going to ask you to, all right? I'm not going to do this. That's why the gun is still over there. But I want you to think about the question that I'm asking, okay? If I were to pick up the handgun and the way it sits right now, and I were to point it directly at you, no, I have changed nothing. The firearm is in complete safe condition. The slide's locked back to the rear. There's no ammunition anywhere near it. Okay? And the rest of you, I want you to just envision this. Close your eyes if you have to. Envision this in your head. That gun is clear. The slide's locked back to the rear. There's no ammunition in it whatsoever. If I pointed that at you right now, and I'm not going to, how would you feel? What emotion? What emotion?
Fear.
Fear. Fear is the emotion.
Definitely discomfort, fear.
Fear.
I want you to point it down.
Okay, fear. All right, is there anybody that would feel different? Maybe the opposite end. I wouldn't care. Comfort. Everybody here was like, yeah, you're just like, no, not. Why would you feel good about that? Right? Okay. It's important to identify that emotion. Why would you be afraid?
Uncertainty is one thing.
Why?
Why would I be uncertain?
Yes, sir.
And it is because I'm not handling the gun and it's pointed in my direction.
Okay, but
I don't like that feeling.
Sure, but we have verified. This thing is
Absolutely.
completely clear.
Yes.
We know that it's not. It's not loaded. We know. We have all said it here. We know it cannot go bang. Why are we afraid?
Because it's a gun.
Because it's a gun. Sure. We're starting to get there. A little bit at a time. Why is it? Is it unsafe? Is it unsafe for me to do that? Is it unsafe? No.
Not really.
It is not unsafe. Okay, but you still feel uncomfortable, which is totally acceptable, by the way. Why?
It's a threatening gesture.
Gesture. Now we're getting somewhere. Gesture is more of a. So me flipping somebody the bird, that's a gesture, right? Why is that a problem? If I flip somebody the bird, if I did this to Doc, and he's going to get what? I'm trying not to say the word. He's going to get angry or starts with O.
Offended.
Offended. He's going to get offended. So to be offended means I have displayed some type of improper etiquette. So by me pointing a firearm that we both have visually and physically inspected, we know it to be completely safe. There's no way this gun can jump up and bite me, okay? It is not unsafe for me to point that firearm at you. It's not unsafe. It is bad etiquette. It is terrible etiquette. The reason why it's important to understand the difference between the two is because you're going to land on one side of the fence or the other, right? I would like for you to be standing on the fence. I would like for you to be in that state of understanding, okay? If I'm on one side of the fence, I'm afraid. That's an unnecessary fear of an inanimate object. There's absolutely no reason why you should be afraid. And remember what I said a while ago about the importance of being able to explain the nomenclature of firearms and that sort of thing, right? Because if I call it a doohickey, he's going to call it a doohickey, and it's going to be turned into something different when we spread this knowledge out, right? Well, when I say I'm afraid of that gun in its current condition, I'm afraid that I shouldn't, if that's the case, I shouldn't stand in front of it like this. Is this unsafe? No, that's just silly. That's just silly. Standing in front of that gun, there's no way it's going to jump up and bite me. Now, if you turn around and decide you're going to load it while I'm standing there, that's a problem. That's when we start running into unsafe stuff. But before it becomes unsafe, it becomes bad etiquette. Before she starts to load it, she picks it up. When she puts it in her hand, it's pointed at me. That is bad etiquette. That bad etiquette that can lead to something bad. Can lead to something unsafe. Now you kind of understand what I'm talking about. Now, let's talk about the other side of the fence, for instance. If we're on the other side of the fence and we say, yeah, dude, I just checked this out, it's clear, point it right at me, I don't care. What category does that fall into? Negligence, carelessness, right? Disrespect. It falls into a category of, you know, I don't care. It doesn't bother me none at all. Like I know for a fact I checked. It's no big deal at all. That's carelessness, and that could cause some really bad stuff. All right, both sides are equally bad. You do not need to have an unnecessary fear of firearms, because if you drill it into your head of, and I'm just using for what you said earlier about, if you drill it in your head, I should never point it. There's no reason why I should point a firearm at somebody. I can think of plenty. Because you might have to shoot someone. That's why. So I don't want it in your head that you shouldn't point a firearm at someone, because you should. You might have to be rude. You might have to be unsafe if you have to protect yourself. Does that make sense? Okay. How about, all right, and we're just talking about one safety rule here. And we're talking about, when I say rules are meant to be, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Broken.
Broken. With every rule, there is an exception, right? So we talk about the 3 firearm safety rules. Always, 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 right? Right now, as a basic pistol shooter, you need to understand this is very important that you get these safety rules down to a skill, a level of skill, because it's a skill set that you're learning, okay? But you also need to understand that there is an exception for every rule. What might that be? How about never point a firearm at anything you're not intended to shoot, kill, or destroy? Can anybody give me an exception when that is okay? A loaded firearm.
You want to defend yourself?
You want to defend yourself? How about this? I promise you, I do not want to shoot, kill, or destroy anything in this general vicinity. But what did I have to do in order to holster my handgun?
Load it.
Well, I had to load it, yeah, and then I had to holster it. And in the time that I had to holster it, it was pointing at something I do not intend to shoot, kill, or destroy. Well, Tim, if you carry it, the right way instead of that modern, millennial way up front, and you carry it at 3 o'clock, I won't be flagging myself. Promise you will. Mean it. You will. You're still flagging a part of yourself. So I guess what I'm getting at is you can break one rule. You can break one of those rules. When you break 2, you have a recipe for disaster. I'll show you what that looks like. I am coming to holster my gun. When I go to holster my gun, what am I doing?
Fingers off the trigger.
My finger is straight off the trigger. I'm also looking down, making sure there's no obstruction in the way that could possibly hit the trigger as well. I get it there, I let go. The gun is not going to go bang on its own. If I had that unnecessary fear, and I was on that side, that unnecessary fear, that means I did not have enough education to know the difference between when it is actually unsafe or when it is bad etiquette. I want you guys to think of this as if I'm picking my nose in public. Okay? Should you be picking your nose in public? Is it going to hurt anybody? No, but it's pretty offensive, right? So don't be holstering your gun or unholstering your gun in public unless you have to be rude. Does that make sense? That kind of shed some light on things? Okay, you look confused, a little nervous. You nervous? No? Okay. All right.
Should I be?
No, ma'am.
Just kidding.
You're thinking. What you thinking?
I was just thinking about the fact that you're ready with a weapon to defend yourself, but at this stage of the game, you can't defend yourself. Not right now. Not with the weapon.
If I understand your correction or your statement,
You know the gun is not loaded. You know it's in the holster. You know you have it, but there's no ammunition in it either.
oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so no, what
Where
I was
are you going with the next step?
no,
to
what I was
protect
getting at was
yourself?
I was basically explaining when I holster my gun, it's loaded.
I see.
Does that make sense? When I
It
holster
does.
my gun, it's
When I
loaded.
holster my gun, it is loaded.
Sure,
At this stage of the game right now, you know, I know it's not loaded.
sure. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Even if it were loaded and you see me holster my gun, you know and I know that I am not going to pull the trigger. I'm going to keep my fingers straight off the trigger. But how do I accomplish that? I practice. There's going to be a time today, I'm sure, with some of you, maybe all of you, I'm going to have to tell you at some point, take your fingers straight off the trigger. All right? When we have it in our heads, when we grew up in school and in our homes and that sort of thing, when we broke a rule, we get a punishment, whether it be demerits or a wooden spoon across our hand. We get some form of punishment. Understand, these rules carry their own punishment. I am not going to be the one that delivers that. If I tell you to take your fingers straight off the trigger, that isn't me sitting back here going, demerit. If he does that again, I'm going to have him leave the range. No, that's not the way this works. It's a skill, right? You're going to screw it up. You're going to screw it up. I'd rather you screw it up here when the firearm is pointed in a safe direction. Because if your finger is on the trigger and before you're ready to shoot, right? Because the rule is always keep your finger straight off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. If my finger is on the trigger and I'm focused on my target, like where did I hit? And I forgot to take my finger off the trigger. What's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst thing that can happen?
Pull the trigger.
I pull the trigger, I have a negligent discharge. Where's it going?
Downrange.
In a safe direction, downrange, right? That's the worst thing that can happen. So for me to come up next to you, somebody that has not yet anchored this skill set of when to put their finger on the trigger or when to keep it straight, if I come up to you and you're like, hey, numbnuts, what are you doing? What's that gonna do? That's not gonna do anything, right? So understand that if we tell you finger straighten off the trigger, well, hey, watch where you're pointing your muzzle. That's probably gonna happen out there, hopefully not out there, or over here in the staging area. Hey, watch your muzzle, right? Hey, real quick, where do you guys see people pointing guns at each other all the time? In one place. I'm telling you, I see it all the time. Every time I go there. They're unloaded. But where do you see it? Have you ever been to a gun store? No? Been to a Cabela's, Academy, sporting goods store where there's guns being sold? How many times do people pick up those guns and they go like this? Right? And there's people right here and they're looking at guns and they're like, yeah, this is great. Pointing at the guy behind the counter, looking down the barrel, doing all kinds of crazy stuff, right? What are they doing? They're picking their noses in public. Right? And when you're now, because you guys know this now, because you've been educated on it, now you're going to go with your friend. That one friend you guys got. That one friend that's like extremely vulgar. No matter where you take him, you could take him to your grandmother's house and he's still not going to have a filter. He's going to be dropping F-bombs left and right. He's going to be picking his nose. He's going to be doing all kinds of stuff like he has no manners whatsoever. That's what that person looks like behind the counter. And if you're the educated, you're going to be the one going, man, I feel really awkward right now. You shouldn't be doing that. I really don't feel good about this. I'm out. Right? It should make you feel uncomfortable. It should not make you feel afraid. Okay? All right, did I beat that one up enough? Thanks, Doc.
Anytime.
I can always count on you to be truthful.
You can.
All right. Any questions about firearm safety versus firearm etiquette? No? Okay. Fantabulous.